All right, so we are joined from the Pentagon in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., by Air Force HR personnel specialist, Debbie Cole. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got a room full here with us at Velma Jackson High School, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Rosa Scott, Madison Central, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, our YouTube channel. This is our CCR class. We're in the government career cluster, and we really look at options for young people. And I think it's important also not only to see pass in the Air Force, but really know what our armed forces do and the possible path they could take. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Greg. I'm so happy to be here today and happy to talk to your class.
Awesome. Now, before we talk about what all it is you do in the Air Force, you are, even though you're joining us from Washington, D.C., you are from Clinton, right down the road. So take us back to the beginning about, you went to Clinton High School and you had a certain path for yourself, and all that changed. So take us through that.
Yes, Greg. Yeah, you're right about that. I'm born and raised Clinton, Mississippi. Go Arrows. So we have family of 8. My mom had 8 kids. I was number 6. And going to Clinton, we always was told, you go, you get good grades, you go to college, you have a good, successful career. So yeah, I started off first. I graduated at 16. I graduated a little early, and I went to Ole Miss for 2 years. So that was my original career path, to go to Ole Miss and major in engineering. And as I was at Ole Miss on year 2, I decided that it just wasn't for me. So I got bored, to be honest, because in Clinton, they don't talk about the military a lot. Then they didn't. I graduated in 2006, so they didn't talk about the military a lot. But I always wanted to join the Air Force when I was younger. I don't come from a military family or anything like that. I just thought it was something good to do. My family did not like the idea at first because, again, you didn't bring the military basically in our school district. They wanted you to go to college. So it was something that I was kind of like really iffy about. So I ended up joining the Air Force when I was 18, even though I did college for 2 years.
Yeah, and obviously you made that change after you went to college. So what drove you to join the Air Force as opposed to other branches?
To be honest, I didn't have a really desire to go to the Army, Navy, or Marines, even though now I could see myself being in the Marines. It wasn't just a desire. For some reason, it seemed like the Air Force was more of the route for me. I was girly. I still am girly. And it just seemed like the women that I saw in the Air Force kept their feminine ways about them. Not saying the other branches don't, but just for me, that was just the really shallow thinking of when I wanted to join the Air Force. But again, I had not regretted one day, going on 16 years next month. So I've not regretted it at all.
Yeah, and we'll talk about where all you've been, because you've already lived in some really cool places that we'll talk about in a second. But I think it's very important to understand for all of our young people that, we hear Air Force and we automatically think of what we see on TV and in the movies, the fighter pilots, all the aircraft, and obviously that is a part of the Air Force, but that's such a small part. Because you are in the administrative offices there at the Pentagon. You deal with the HR personnel, payroll, onboarding, offboarding, all that, which is a huge job when you're dealing with that many employees of the Air Force, whether it be civilian, contractors, and active and reserves. So talk a little bit about, the different career paths within the Air Force, because it really is not only is it very flexible, you can pretty much get training in any field you want, and you're not paying a dime for it.
Definitely, Greg, you're spot on with that one. Exactly. Less than 1% of the Air Force is actually pilots, just so you can know that fact. But you're so right. Whenever someone thinks, Air Force, they think you fly planes. Actually, I'm too short to ever be a pilot, so that was kind of funny when I first came in. But you're right. It's so many different career fields you can go in throughout the Air Force. Again, I'm HR. My husband, I'm married mil to mil. He's Air Force as well. He is air traffic control, so he deals with the controlling of the pilots and helping them take off and land and everything like that. But you're right. HR is my field right now, and we deal with helping every single person in the Air Force. So I really do look at the Air Force, honestly, even though we know that it's we're here to serve our country, and we do say, we raise our right hand and say we'll die for our country. It actually, to me, the Air Force is like a civilian job from what I do every single day, just knowing people in corporate America and in the HR field. So yeah, we've had cool deployments we go on, and we're trained and we're ready. But you're right. So many different careers you can go into, whether it's finance, maintenance. We have people that work in the gyms, it's like the uniform every day, and their job is services. They work in the
Yeah.
dining facilities. They cook. They're able to be chefs when they get out. We have people again that work in a gym. They're personal trainers. You just have so many different career fields you can go into. I mean, from medical to all these other things. So you're spot on. Again, less than 1% are pilots. So people can stop asking us, do we fly planes every time they hear Air Force.
Yeah, and I know you're familiar with this. One thing that the air in every branch has great things to offer, but one thing the Air Force, at least what I've seen that stands out from other branches, is the Air Force really has state-of-the-art technology when it comes to cybersecurity, information systems, financial software. You mentioned air traffic controller with your husband, communications, and hardware, software development, software engineering, and and again, we are not telling people don't go to college. That's not what we're about. But it is with these tech companies. They're looking at people that have military experience, maybe more than somebody that has the college degree, because that person with the military experience is going to have state-of-the-art training. They're going to have certifications in certain programs, and they're not going to have any college debt, but they're going to have that training that these companies that are hiring tech people won't. And I've met some tech students that had just finished tech school at Keesler, and they said, "Look, I'm doing 5 years in the Air Force. When I get out, I'm going to be making $175,000 a year in a tech job."
Mm-hmm. Exactly, Greg. Yeah, you're spot on again, right, with that, because even right now we have civilians that work for us, and when we get their resumes in, I can tell you right now, degrees are phenomenal. I come from a family that's very, very, very educated. Degrees from attorneys to professors with their PhDs to engineers. So my siblings did really, really well. So I definitely do not at all knock, going to school. I actually in Air Force paid for my bachelor's. I finished up with the University of Louisville. And you know organizational leadership. So I 100% recommend education. But you're right, there's so many different paths you can take. And I can tell you, as we hire some of our civilians that are coming in right now to work for us in the Pentagon, the ones that stand out the most are the ones that have prior military background and have the experience. Sometimes over the ones with degrees, I can tell you that right now. So you're spot on with that one. And the certifications, the IT technology search you can get and different things like that hold a lot of weight. And exactly, like I say, we hear college a lot, that's great, but make sure you just have a plan. I think it's important for people to have a plan that works for them. Like for instance, for me, I'm school books, it always have came natural, just to be honest. But it's just I was not interested in it at all. Like I was not interested in going to college at first. And again, my family was extremely upset when I come home and say I'm going to the military. But I can tell you, it has been the best choice I think I've made in my life. I've met so many good friends. As you said, I've been to a lot of different places. In the last 15 years, I've lived 8 different places, on top of 2 deployments as well. And it's been phenomenal. So you're right. So many certifications you can get outside of just looking at it from a college degree perspective. So just making sure we're keeping our eyes open to all the different avenues that are out there. We don't just kind of shut it down because we're not exposed to it.
Yeah, and another route, I know Jackson State, Ole Miss, Mississippi State all have great Air Force ROTC programs. So if you wanted to do the college route and do the ROTC program at any of those universities, you could go into the Air Force as an officer, make even more money, and still you'd have your degree that you would get reimbursed, that the military would pay for, and you'd come in with officer pay rate. So talk a little bit about the difference between that, because there's obviously multiple entry points to the Air Force.
Oh, definitely. That's one thing I kind of hate, being that I didn't come from a military background. I wasn't that familiar with the ROTC process. And I wish I would have been more, because I probably would have went that direction, even though I don't look at life as having any regrets. But you're absolutely right. As far as it's different ways to go, because some people might feel like, I see myself in the military, but I haven't got a scholarship or anything like that. You can go to those schools with, you're right, Ole Miss is one, Jackson State has one, a few of them do around that area. But you can go to these schools and you can actually get into their ROTC program. They give you a scholarship. Basically, you can apply for scholarships to get your school paid for, and then you come in as an officer. And you're right, you make way more money coming in as an officer than enlisted. So it's definitely a better route to go after you've done your research and realize that's something you see yourself doing. So that's definitely one of the ways. Or you can say, hey, I'm not sure which route I want to go right now, but I can see myself doing something with the military or getting at least that foundation the first 4 years. And I'm not a recruiter. I've never been a recruiter, but I always tell people I feel like I'm a born recruiter for the Air Force. I just think it's a great life. And it's provided me and my family a really, really good life. So you can decide to say, hey, let me just go in for these few years. And it's actually programs right now. One of the guys that work for me, I'm doing a package for him right now to transition over until to become an officer. He hasn't even finished up school yet, but it's a program where the Air Force will take you. They'll pay for you to go to school if you get accepted to this program. And then when you're done, you're asked to become an officer as well. And he's already done 3 years in, have a lot of experience and have an upper hand on a lot of the individuals that probably will go to ROTC that way because he's already been exposed to the military and everything in that nature. So yes, it's so many different routes you can take in. The easiest one is coming out of high school, don't know what you want to do. I would tell people, go to the military. I promise you. I
Yeah.
would tell people when I go back home, I worked at MEPS in Jackson for 3 years back in 2015. And it was a great assignment. I love Mississippi. Mississippi has my heart. It's one of my top 3 places to retire, still in Mississippi. So a great, great assignment. And the best thing I loved about it was meeting people where I was from and the different school systems around Mississippi when I would go do the ASVAB test and letting them know, hey, don't be scared. It's a good way. Like I know, it sounds scary at first because, a lot of times we're from smaller areas. Clinton is a small city as well, and they were close to Jackson, but it's a small city. And you're like, oh, we stay here. All my family's here. My grandparents are here. My mom is here. We don't leave. And it takes a little gut to say, okay, I'm going to go off the basic training and let these people yell at me for 6 to 9 weeks. And, let's see where it goes after this. But it's not a bad job at all. It sets you up from medical to schooling to just giving you that foundation of discipline. I mean, it's not hard. You're like, oh, is basic training hard? No, it's not hard at all. I mean, make sure you're, eating your Wheaties and, lifting some weights here and there and running a little bit, but it's not hard at all. And it had gotten a little less strenuous over the years, to be honest, just with different research and different things like that.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to talk about next. That's a great segue because you hear a lot of kids say, well, I know I do well in the military, but I can't handle people hollering at me. And I'm like, you don't understand. I'm not even a military person. And I know that in basic training, they want you to complete it. They're not trying to make you fail.
Yes.
They need new blood. People are getting out of the military every day.
Yes.
They need people that are going to be ready to train and get into these spots. So I think that's important to understand is that, we all see the movies, we've all seen Full Metal Jacket, which was set in the 70s. But basic training has changed a lot since then. And I think there's a big dramatization of it in the movies that I think kind of gives people a false picture, because we've had some students recently that have completed basic training and they were like, look, it's mainly mental, but they really wanted me to complete that so I could go to tech school and move into my career in the military.
Definitely, you're spot on with that. As far as basic training being hard, no, not at all. And I love that you brought up the mental aspect. That's what it is, and it's really great discipline. In other countries, I've lived in Korea for a few years. In other countries, it's actually mandated that each citizen serve at least 2 years, in their military. And to be honest, I would like to see our country go to something close to that because I see the discipline we, have as U.S. citizens sometimes versus people that are in the military, and it's a difference. That's why it's really easy for military people to get jobs after because they know the standard we have when it comes to management, leading, discipline, and all those great skills. So you're right on. Basic training is more mental than anything. It's not hard. It creates discipline that we all need. And whenever people in the military, some people work for me now, joke about I want to get out because I don't like people telling me what to do. Or I'm like, hey, you go to McDonald's, they tell you what to do. They tell you got to wear the hat. They tell you how to cook the fries. When you're an entrepreneur, guess what? Your customers tell you what to do. Because if you want to get business and be competitive, you have to listen to your customers. So your customers are your bosses. So no matter where you go, everybody have checks and balances, even the president. We all have checks and balances and people over us. So have an optimistic mindset about it. And I think with anything you do, and that'll take you much farther.
Yeah, and I think that'd be the case with every branch, because we just had a young lady, like I said, at Velma Jackson, just finished her Army basic training, and she's getting into supply and logistics. She's doing her tech school in Virginia right now, and she said basic training was fun. I got to throw grenades and shoot weapons. She said I wouldn't get to do that anywhere else. So she said it was more fun. And she said the hardest part was not being able to talk to her family as much, but she said she had a great time and it was a lot of fun more than anything.
I agree exactly. I can't speak much on the Air Force Basic because it's been almost 15 years for me now. But I have heard that they have people that's been in long, we think it's kind of a joke. They have cards you hand up, when you hold them up when you feel stressed out, or they still have their cell phones. They're able to use their own cell phones to call their parents and call back home. So again, we laugh about it, the ones who've been in for some time, but I can tell you that they're not trying for you not to complete it. So it's not
Yeah.
the goal is to retain people, keep people in, and keep them wanting to do the job. So that we get it in the Air Force, we understand it, and we wouldn't set a program up for people to fail. That's not our job. It's not our goal.
Absolutely. Now, before I get to the students' questions, I did want to talk about, you did mention you lived in Korea. We have a lot of young people that are, they're kind of unsure. They might be on the fence about what they want to do, but they're like, I just want to get out of Mississippi, but they don't want to put the financial strain of college on their parents. We actually have an alumni who graduated here in 2017 who's in the Air Force and security forces at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his reason. He said, look, I was a good student, but I didn't qualify for a whole lot of scholarships. My grandparents couldn't afford a lot of stuff. So he's lived in Guam, he's lived in the Philippines, he's lived in Japan, and now he's in Oklahoma. So this really is a chance. If you're a person that says, I want to get out of Mississippi, I want to see the world, and, the military in general, but especially the Air Force could be a great answer for that.
100%. Yes, like I said, I don't regret it. I'm very family oriented, really close to my family. I come home to Mississippi a lot actually to visit. I'll be there in a few weeks just to visit my mom. She's in Ridgeland area. So you're absolutely correct. It's just so much to see out there. People are like, how was Korea? And I say it's amazing. They can tell me right now you got to go back to Korea, and I will go back. Now I can tell you I don't want to live anywhere forever outside of the United States. I think we have a great country here outside of all the things people think are horrible. Maybe when you go visit other places, you'll appreciate the country way more. So I've been to a lot of amazing exotic places, Greece. Just can name a lot of them here, but it's a great way to go. It's not bad. Again, I'm not a recruiter. I never really cared to be one. That's actually a great job too. You can actually choose to be a recruiter in the Air Force, and a lot of times they station you back to where you're from because they know you're more relatable. So again, there's so many options out there, but you're right. It's not a bad route at all, especially want to see the world and get experience more things. And again, scholarships, funding, that's a big thing. I finished school up, $0. My two daughters, I have a 14-year-old and a 2-year-old. They can go to school for free, because my husband and I, we're in the military. So, just so many perks. Even medical. Sometimes people look at, oh, we don't get paid a lot. I think we do really well. Personally, I have no complaints. It's provided a great life for my family and I. And even the concept of just medical, having that, retired. My husband, he's been in going on 21 years this December, and I'll hit 16. And at the end of the day, we can decide right now, like, okay, yeah, he can get out if he wants to, and he had medical for himself and our kids for the rest of their lives, basically. So
Wow.
that's even a big deal outside of that. And again, he's air traffic. He can get out if he want to and decide to go make 150, 160 somewhere, just being an air traffic control. I think he's tired right now, but a lot of people in that career field, they come in, they actually come in to get the training to get out. So he's had a lot of people just come in just to say, hey, I'm doing 4 years. And they're 21, 22-year-old, have that 4 years of training in the Air Force. They get out and go make the easy 6 figures being air traffic controller. And they've got all for free. The Air Force didn't charge them to train them, in air traffic.
Yeah, and that would really be in any of the branches because the kids interested in the trades. You can learn to weld in the Air Force. You can get your CDL in the Air Force or in the Army or the Navy or wherever. You can get these technical skills. And you mentioned the recruiter. We actually have a good relationship with the Air Force recruiter here in Jackson, Technical Sergeant Anthony Evanson, and he's from California, but he was from a small town, and he was like, "Look, I just had to get out of there." And he's still in it. And he said, "Look, I wasn't even trying, and I got an associate's, and I didn't even realize I had one." So you can still get the degree and not even realize you're getting them.
Yep, because the Air Force, they use a lot of your training to account for credit. So yeah, again, I'm not a recruiter, but I do call myself a born recruiter. And you're right, it's all the branches. I have a brother in the Marines. I have a brother in the Navy, and also a good friend in the Army who's a recruiter as well. So, and I've worked with all the branches. I've been stationed on Army posts before. So I've deployed with the Navy. So definitely in the joint community. When I worked at MEPS in Jackson, you work with all the branches. So you're right. I support. You got to find out which one you think is best for you, depending on what do you want to do. But you don't go wrong going to any military branch right now. I would tell people, but you got to just find out which one you think suits you better with the jobs they have and quality of life and different things like that.
Yeah, and that's a great point because really every branch really has their own personality, but all of them offer the same benefits. Because we always hear about the Army Corps of Engineers. The Army really sets the standard on engineering projects. The Army Engineers Corps of Engineers works with every branch. The Air Force really sets the standard on this high tech. Partnering with the Space Force. they're doing the
Yeah.
satellite technology, they're doing state of the art radars, they're doing communications, and the Navy obviously with its marine and aquatic science. So there really is a place for anyone, whatever their goals are, whether they want to go as enlisted or whether they want to go to college first. It really is a hidden gem of an opportunity for these kids.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's a resume builder without even saying it. I mean, you go and you network, you meet people. My job now is pretty neat. We support the highest people in the Air Force. We support the White House. Matter of fact, my team today is in the White House. So I'm training them, some our military personnel over
Wow.
there. So it's neat opportunities. You network, you meet. I've met so many friends and just people, and I still have my Mississippi in me, and I love it. So it's just so many awesome opportunities, awesome people I've met over the years. So again, I would not change a day, a second about it. One thing I would change is probably ROTC because I am a school person. So I probably could have finished up school a little faster if I would just went ahead and went through but been an officer. But I still love my job and love what I do. So it all works for me.
That's awesome. Well, I do have some questions from the students, and I'll get to as many of these as I can. But these are all ninth graders. This first one is Caden Myers. He's one of our football players here, and he asked, if you had not joined the Air Force, would you have still dropped out of college, and what would you have done?
If I didn't join the Air Force, I would not have dropped out of college. I would have went to college and finished up in engineering because that's what I would have done. But my goal when I was actually when I got to Ole Miss and was doing engineering, I realized it was just kind of like way over my head, which is funny. My baby sister looked up to me. She's 1 year younger than me, and she looked up to me doing engineering, and she's finishing her doctorate up right now in engineering from Mississippi State.
Wow.
So so what I would have did would have been a math professor. I love math. I've always been a math person. So and I like schedules that are kind of like on my own terms. So I never really fit the normal, 8 to 5 type of mentality schedule person. So I love the professional lifestyle. My brother, actually he did go to school straight through. He's a professor. He finished up his PhD from Mississippi State, and he's a professor at the University of Louisville. So I love his schedule. I
Wow.
love it, love it, love it.
That's awesome. This is Micaiah Luckett. I always say her name wrong. She gets mad at me. She's one of our basketball players here. And she asked, in your opinion, what is the hardest job in the Air Force?
Oh boy, that's a good one. Makia, I think I mispronounced it too. Sorry about that. The hardest job in the Air Force is, I probably would say my job, personnel, which is HR. And the reason I say that is because everybody wants you to do everything right now.
Mm-hmm.
They want everything like right now, especially where we work now and our customers. And people would never think the admin world is so just like demanding as it is. And our people, I mean, we have days where we're just like it's a lot. So people kind of look at us as pencil pushers. And I can tell you this: when I met my husband, we actually met in Korea. When I met my husband, he's air traffic, so he's in the ops world. I'm in the support admin world, and we were a joke to them. We were a joke. He's like, "Oh yeah, personnel is HR pencil pushers." And now that he saw my life and how much I work and what my job encompasses, he have a different level of respect for us, just for the level of customer service people want every single day. So just taking care of people. I have a team of about 40 people under me right now. And it can be a lot, but I've been in a time and I definitely can do it, but it can be a lot. So I would say admin is I think because we're not appreciated. We don't feel like we're valued a lot, but everybody needs us for everything. So where if you're air traffic controller, they understand like how you fit in the mission. So if you ask someone, they probably don't really understand sometimes in the admin world how you really fit in the mission to, the overall Air Force mission.
Yeah, because let somebody's paycheck be wrong one time.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. This is a good
Good
one. This is
question.
Michaela Dawson. This is Michaela Dawson, one of our cheerleaders here. And she asked, what made you most interested in the Air Force as opposed to the other branches?
Thanks, Michaela. Good question. I also have a ninth grade cheerleader here in the house with me. We're at home. So yes, interesting to, be a parent of a teenager now. Interesting and fun. Why am I most interested in the Air Force versus the other branches? I think I kind of talked about that in the beginning. I didn't know much about it. I didn't have any family that went off. And the Air Force seemed like I could still be like, a very feminine woman. I love dressing up. I love heels. I love wearing earrings. In the Air Force, you can do all those things, but you can't wear heels in uniform. But I just feel like you can keep your feminine ways without having to, compromise it from just the looks of things. Again, it was a very shallow mentality. Because again, I met these women in all the other branches, that feel the same exact way I feel. There was no real reason behind it. It just seemed like it was more. It reminded me more of corporate America than the other branches, to be
Yeah.
honest. If I had to just really be, it did. So, and I kind of still feel that way, and I still promote the Air Force over other branches, and more so not because I think they're our sister brothers. Like, my little brother, he's stationed here as well. In the Marines, he guards the embassy. So he just got back from
Oh,
Ethiopia, and he's been to a
wow.
lot of cool places over the past few years. And he works in embassies now as well. He started off guarding them, now he works in them as
Oh,
attaché.
man.
Yep.
That's
So he's
awesome.
actually going to Sudan in a few months for about 90 days. So yeah, so he's got a pretty good job, a pretty cool job as well. So me just being close to all the branches in my family, I respect and support all of them. But I still just the quality of life in the Air Force. Air Force care, not that the other ones don't. They care a lot about your family and your people, and the people. So their mentality is always people first, and I like that mentality. So it works for me.
Yeah, and our friends at Ridgeland and Madison Central, they actually have Air Force JROTC there on campus, and I
Yep.
know those Air Force officers would definitely say the same on that. And there's
Hmm.
so many great things. I've just got a couple more. I love this one right here. This is Willie Clay, one of our football players here, and he asked, being a girl from a small town in Mississippi, was it overwhelming the first time you realized you were walking into the Pentagon?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, okay. Willie, thanks so much for that question. Because not even I've been in the Pentagon now for 2 years, and not just the first day, Willie. It's every day. Sometimes when I'm walking in, I'm like, I can't believe I work here. It is super neat. I mean, it is just probably the neatest. It is my favorite assignment out of all 8, and I've had great assignments. And it's been different to just know you work in a nation's capital and just to be in DC, and like we have customers that work in the capital, and we get like tours that are very elite. We get to sit in the House of Representatives whenever we want to. So it's
Wow.
really the status we have here with the job we do and who we support, give us a lot of great opportunities. I can tell you sometimes I'm just really like just, flabbergasted on the opportunities I've got just working here, and I look up and I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is really amazing. So yeah. Being a small girl from Mississippi, I can tell you that it actually is very still um shocking to me where I work now and like who I support and what I do.
Yeah, and I would suggest if anybody's ever in the DMV to do one of the tours of the Pentagon because it really is one of the most incredible buildings you will ever see.
Oh my gosh, yes. If you, Greg, definitely give them my contact information. So if anybody's ever in the area, we can definitely set you over some pretty cool tours. Yep.
Absolutely. I just got one more, and I love this question too. This is TJ Jones, another one of our football players. And he asked, if someone was wanting to join the Air Force, what is something they could expect from the very beginning?
Okay. Okay, TJ, great question. So what they can expect is uh discipline more than anything. I mean, as far as just showing up on time, the difference too, and it's kind of like going to intertwine another question I got previously before this one is Air Force is really big on personal development. So I didn't realize until recently how much more the Air Force focused on development more than just your job you're doing, just like you as a person versus the other branches. And my brother who's in the Marines, he's always giving me a good insight on like, Debbie, no, we don't care about that. We don't care about this. So that's the difference. Air Force wants you to be a better person. They want you like to develop as yourself. And I always tell my subordinates all the time, hey, I want you to go do X, Y, and Z. And sometimes they'll tell me, Sergeant Cole, I'm not trying to get promoted. And I tell them, it's not about being promoted. I want you to build your life resume. I want you to be a better person, whether you're at home, in the Air Force, at McDonald's, doing whatever you want to do, whatever your heart desires. I want you to be a better person. So one thing the Air Force is always going to do is going to push you out of your comfort zone to make you be the best version of yourself. And I love that so much about the Air Force. And again, I've recently appreciated it way more because I was thinking that was a normal thing across all the branches, and it's actually not. And not putting those branches down. It's just Air Force focuses a lot on professional and personal development.
Absolutely. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us because this is such great information, and you're such a great inspiration. Coming from right here in the area. But with these kids that are be watching with us now, watching later, what can they? Why should they really consider at least looking and seeing what the Air Force has to offer?
I think the biggest thing, like we talked about earlier, is considering it just to keep your options open with life. A lot of times we think, people will tell us if you do A plus B, it'll equal to C in your life. And that's kind of how, I think I was brought up, and I love my upbringing. I love them so much. My mom did an amazing job, and Clinton is a phenomenal place to be. I love Clinton still to this day. But I just wish they would have opened their eyes up and not been so closed-minded. Sometimes in the South, we stay really, really like thinking like this, and the world is so like this. So I think the biggest thing is just to make sure you keep your options open, to know what all is out there, what benefits you the most, and look at your life 10 years from now. A lot of people say all the time, well, oh, that's too much work, or I don't want to get my master's, or I don't want to do this because it's so much school. What else would you be doing? Just working to survive, basically. I tell people these are the years where you kind of like you get after it. You kind of work hard. You work hard in your 20s, your 30s, so you can have this phenomenal life in your 40s. I vacation a lot. I just came off a 3-4 week vacation. We'll go to Europe sometimes and stay out there for like 2 weeks, go see 5 countries. We were in Paris last year. We are living our life basically because of the decisions we made back when we were like 18, 19, 20 years old. So I think it's important to like just keep your, eyes not looking at a narrow point of view, to keep, don't keep that closed minded. And we know we're from the South and we're just kind of in our own bubble. Try to just think farther than that to know it's so much out here in the world. I can tell you a lot of people that work for me that's from Mississippi in the South, they're like, oh man, I ain't going back home. I'm not going back home. And I tell them all the time, go back home, go see your family. That's where you're from. I am a Mississippi person. I love Mississippi. I rep it all the time. But at the same time, it's so much more out here. So just keeping your eyes open and getting exposed to more and looking at it as, oh, I don't want to leave my family. Go do something to help your family. Go do something to benefit your family. Sometimes you're the first one that's leaving, from out of here. And don't think it's just in Mississippi. My husband's from San Francisco. And when we got married in New Orleans, actually, we did a cruise out of New Orleans, like 50 people. That was his family's first time getting on the plane. Like his mom, his sister from San Francisco. They had never flew before. So it's not just the Mississippi people that kind of like just stay like doing like not. I have family right now. I won't get on the boat. Don't be like that. Be the first person in your family to do something different, to just make that change. Make a path down there. And you look around, you're like, oh wow, I have an uncle that's out here. That's a lieutenant colonel. That's an officer in the United States Army, and the United States Air Force, and you've set that tone for your family and that battle rhythm. So that's the advice that I would give them. To let's just not live in this box people just put us in, and think outside of the box, and just let's think bigger. And it's endless, basically. The potential out here that these younger people have is just like endless. I love seeing my daughter and her age. I'm just like, you guys have so much more than what we have. So you have so much potential just to be so much better than what we are. So I just tell people to just thrive to be better, and just, getting out of their comfort zone, and just making sure they're looking at life as this is the one life you have to live. Make it great.
Absolutely. And just because you're the first at something doesn't mean you can't be the best at something. I say that all the time, no matter where you came from. If you're unsure, the military could really be the area to help you find that path. So we thank you so much for joining us, Debbie Cole, all the way from the Pentagon there in our nation's capital. But before we go, aim high.
Fly, fight, win.
There we go. Had to hear it. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Thank you, Greg. All right, Ben.
See ya.